Hey everyone, Hallie here. Since you guys seem to enjoy my ranking of the strategist healer characters within Marvel Rivals, I figured why not do a similar ranking to the tank characters within Marvel Rivals, which is also known as the Vanguard class. Currently within Marvel Rivals, there are 8 different Vanguard characters, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my ranking of all of these characters from worst to best. And before we get into it, I just want to let you guys know that this is just my personal opinion. If you guys have a different list or whatever, be sure to leave it in the comments. I would love to have a discussion and hear your guys' thoughts. And also just thank you guys so much for all the support on the last Marvel Rivals video. It is awesome, and I'm happy you guys really enjoyed it. So, without further ado, let's get into my least favorite Vanguard character within Marvel Rivals. Coming in at the number 8 spot for what I think is the worst Vanguard tank character within Marvel Rivals, we have Captain America. Now, don't get me wrong, you can certainly have great games with all of these characters. However, whenever I'm doing these rankings, I take into mind what is the Vanguard role do in Marvel Rivals? When I want a Vanguard on my team, I want a character who's essentially a tank, because that's the whole role of a Vanguard. I want a character who can block damage, get aggro from the enemy team so that your teammates can, have a little bit more flexibility. And I just feel like Captain America doesn't fit the role well. My first issue with Captain America is that he is a primarily melee-focused character. And sure, when you do your ultimate, you get a little bit of range, and you also have a side ability where you can throw your shield. His shield only blocks for about, I believe, 450 health. And although that's okay, you're really only blocking damage that you yourself are receiving. You're not really providing any cover for your teammates, and I don't know, I just find it quite underwhelming. Captain America does have good speed, as you can run around with the character. However, another issue that I have with Captain America, and this might just because I play on controller, but when you run as Captain America, there's a certain dead zone within your joystick where if you go over that dead zone, your character stops running, and then that can end up getting you killed. It got me killed in the gameplay footage you guys saw, and I just feel like he's not very consistent. So due to the fact that he's mainly a melee-focused character, he really doesn't block much damage for the team, and he just feels weak overall in my opinion. I'm going to be giving Captain America the number 8 spot. I do think he could be strong. I feel like if you play him as a super aggressive duelist, yeah, maybe you can get some kills and do okay. However, when I want a Vanguard on my team, I don't want a duelist. I want a tank. At my number 7 spot, I have Thor. Now, in my opinion, Thor suffers from a lot of the issues that Captain America suffers from. However, I do think he excels in some areas that Captain America just doesn't compete in. Let's start off with just a basic overview of how Thor's kit works. He has 4, or I believe it's 3 cooldown charges, essentially tokens that are related to your abilities, similar to the character Mantis, who I covered in my strategist ranking video. These tokens are tied to the abilities Hammer Throw, where you get to throw Mjolnir, which is essentially going to be your ranged option as Thor. It's not incredibly powerful, however, it is a good little poke at the enemy team. So you have Hammer Throw that you can use. You also have a charge with Thor where you throw yourself with Mjolnir, and that is also quite powerful, and that's essentially going to be your movement ability with Thor. And then the last ability that is tied to the token system with Thor is his square ability. I'm on PlayStation, so I don't know what it is on PC, your X ability on Xbox. But this ability essentially makes him go into a lightning realm, and he's able to throw lightning bolts, which is a great ranged ability. There's also his ability that isn't tied to any of his tokens, but it is to spawn a little protective barrier, which is also quite useful. However, it's not the best barrier in the game, especially for Vanguards. There are other tank characters that just create better barriers than Thor. However, I think Thor can certainly hold his own, at least a lot better compared to Captain America, and I feel like his ranged abilities certainly add to his usefulness. His ultimate is also quite solid, where you go up in the air and you do a AoE attack. It's not incredibly powerful. It's not like you're going to be one-shotting enemies like the Black Widow ultimate or Iron Man's ultimate. However, it is just a nice little disruptive ability due to the fact that I think characters just fill the role of being a tank better than Thor does. I think Thor is great as a DPS character. However, I don't think he's going to be blocking too much damage. And if you get caught out in the open as Thor, it can be quite difficult because you're only quite difficult to get away because your only ability to really get out of that situation is going to be your hammer dash. And then once you use that, that's on cooldown and you're just going to be walking around. So just kind of important to note, but I think that Thor is a pretty solid tank. However, just due to the fact that there are other better tanks in the game, and his kit is just a little bit lackluster in my opinion due to the mainly melee focused and your only ranged attacks are on significant cooldowns and don't do too much damage, specifically like the hammer throw. Yeah, he's going to be at the number 7 spot. Next up at number 6, we have Peni Parker. Now, one thing I really do like about Peni Parker and what sets her above the previous 2 characters that we covered is the fact that, well, she is a ranged character. And since she is a ranged character, I think it is just objectively easier to survive as her. And of course, if you are surviving as a Vanguard and you're soaking up damage, then you're doing your job. And since Peni Parker makes doing that much easier, she is at the number 6 spot. Peni Parker excels in zone denial. She's able to shoot out these little webs that slow down the enemy and I think maybe speed you up. But yeah, her whole kit is essentially built around shooting out webs and shooting out little mines to block off areas of the map and slow down the enemies from really just pushing in like very quickly. Peni Parker also has a fantastic left click that is able to fully stun enemies, and every character who has an ability like this where they are able to fully stun an enemy, it is always so useful. With Peni Parker, you can fully stun an enemy and then get a few headshots off on them and, you know, get them to half health, which is incredibly significant and a super powerful ability that is essentially like always, I think it has like a 3-second cooldown, which is just ridiculous, but you know, it is a strong ability. My main issue with Peni Parker, although I have been glazing her, is that, well, her passive, like the wall crawl, is easily the worst out of all these spider characters. And once her stuff has been destroyed, like her area of denial, abilities, her mines, and all of that, and once she's caught out in the open, she is incredibly easy to kill. And she doesn't really have too much health. I think she has about 600 health, which is still a lot of health. However, you know, if you're caught out in the open all by yourself, and since she doesn't have too much like movement options, she can easily be picked off. So due to that, just due to the fact that she can easily kind of be picked off on her own, and her abilities and stuff can just be destroyed, and then she doesn't really do much. I'm going to put her at the number 6 spot. She really isn't like blocking too much damage. Peni Parker fills the role of essentially just slowing the enemy team down. She's not really like a tank, you know, if that makes sense. She's an interesting character because she's kind of a tank. However, her role as a tank is essentially just to slow the enemies down rather than like soak up damage, if you know what I mean. So for that, I'm going to put her at the number 6 spot. She's definitely she can be a solid pick. However, I feel like she's just situational. And like, yeah, you know, you really got to think, like, does my team need a Peni Parker right now? Yeah, but for that, I'm going to put her at the number 6 spot. At number 5, I have Magneto. Now, Magneto is easily comparable to Reinhardt from Overwatch. His main attack is a little orb that he can fire out, which again is ranged, which gives the bonus points because, as I said earlier, I think it's just easier to survive as a ranged character. And what really sets him apart from the previous characters that we covered is his ability to have a shield. Magneto has a ability where he can essentially just pull out a shield and block damage similar to Reinhardt from Overwatch, if you guys have played that game. But this shield is incredibly powerful. It's just on cooldown, so I don't believe it has like a health mechanic. I'm pretty sure it just works off cooldown, or maybe when you take damage, the cooldown goes down quicker. I'm not too sure. However, this shield is incredibly powerful due to how quickly it can be recharged and how big it is, and the fact your friends can shoot through it, however the enemy team can't. His shield is just incredibly powerful. Magneto also has the ability to place smaller shields on not only himself, but his teammates. These smaller shields are also incredibly useful and can quite literally save your life. And I haven't really been mentioning the team-up abilities. However, Magneto's team-up with Scarlet Witch is absolutely incredible. He has this blade ability when you have this team-up, and this blade ability is essentially, it's like your normal primary fire, except it switches into like blades, I guess. It's really hard to describe. But this team up is incredibly powerful, and Scarlet Witch is already a super powerful character. So that certainly sets him above the other characters as well. So I believe that Magneto has incredible survivability. He has great ranged abilities. He can block a lot of damage. And in my opinion, he is the ideal tank character. And that he's only at the number 5 spot. So that, again, as I said in my previous video, this really just speaks to the balancing of these characters. And all these characters you can technically do well with if you know how to use them. Just because I think there are other better characters, I have Magneto at the 5 spot. My number 4 spot, I have Hulk. Now you may be asking yourself, wait, Hallie, didn't you say that melee focused characters aren't great and they lack survivability and die quickly just, because they don't really do anything outside of just melee? It's hard to survive as a melee character. Yes, I did say that. However, I think Hulk has fantastic survivability within Marvel Rivals. He has an incredible amount of health. He has a 2-stage health mechanic, essentially. Like, he has kind of similar to Adam Warlock, where when you initially spawn in, you spawn in as Bruce Banner, and then you activate your ultimate to turn into the Hulk. Once you are the Hulk, you charge up your ability, your ultimate, to turn into like the Super Hulk, where you becomes incredibly powerful. It reminds me a lot of the Winston ultimate from Overwatch once again. But if you die as Hulk, like if you lose all of your health when you are the big green guy, you just turn back into Bruce Banner, which gives you another chance to survive. Which is pretty significant because that means you don't have to run all the way back from your spawn, wait for a spawn cooldown, and just that mechanic alone is incredibly significant and quite powerful. Hulk also has some pretty solid abilities. He has a Thunderclap as his right bumper ability, which essentially is just a ranged attack. It really doesn't do anything too significant. Hulk claps his hands and then he sends out this little shockwave that can hit enemies and do a little bit of damage. But his left bumper ability, I think, is significantly better, and that ability allows you to stun enemies, and it's like just him yelling. So both are ranged abilities, which is pretty nice as this is a melee focused character. So you do have 2 ranged abilities as the Hulk, and one is able to fully stun an enemy, which again, as I mentioned with Peni Parker, is pretty significant because you can stun an enemy and just that 1 second of being stunned, your teammates can focus on that one person, get them killed, and then boom, it's a 6v5. So it's an incredibly powerful ability, and his ultimate, again, as I mentioned earlier, is essentially just a more powerful form of Hulk. He gets a little bit more health, or quite a significant amount of health, actually. And his attack knocks enemies back a little bit more. It's just, it's good to just aggro the enemies, which is fantastic. That's what Hulk is all about, is essentially just getting the enemies to attack him. And since he has so much health, he is able to get away with doing that. Another fantastic thing about Hulk is that he has pretty great mobility with the ability to jump super far. You're able to charge up a jump, and you're able to leap pretty far, which makes him one of the faster characters within Marvel Rivals. So he is a pretty fantastic character overall. And I didn't even mention his ability to, his shield ability, his whole Vanguard thing. You have the ability as Hulk to provide your teammates and yourself with a shield by activating this one ability. This is a nice little shield. It's not as good as Magneto's shield. However, it allows you and your teammates to soak up a little bit more damage, which is always useful. The reason that Hulk is at the number 4 spot is just because, well, again, he is a melee-focused character, and I don't think he has the best survivability in the world. Like, sure, he has a bunch of health. However, if you don't have a healer, and if the enemy team is just targeting you, and maybe you jump way too far back in the enemy back lines, you can die as Hulk, and it sucks. However, I do think he is a fantastic Vanguard character. He is able to get a lot of aggro from the enemy team, and if your teammates are able to capitalize on you distracting the enemy team, then you can have some pretty easy games. So for that, he is a solid Vanguard character. However, due to his limitations of being a melee-focused character, he is going to be at the number 4 spot. At my number 3 spot, I have Venom. Now, I would say Venom is easily the most highly mobile Vanguard character within Marvel Rivals. He has a similar web swing ability to Peter Parker or Spider-Man, which makes him able to traverse the map incredibly quickly. Venom's main attack is like a tentacle melee attack, although it's not really a melee attack because it does have quite a bit of a range to it, not too much range. But it does have range to it, so it's not a melee attack, which is nice, as, again, if you're able to distance yourself from the enemy, it just makes it easier to survive. He also has the ability to do a diving strike from this web swing, which is super strong, and if you're able to utilize it correctly, you can catch the enemy team off guard pretty well, and your teammates can capitalize on that and, get a few kills. So his web swing ability is fantastic. His other ability is incredibly powerful in his shield ability, where he is able to give himself and his allies a shield for, I think it's like 300 health. It is a comically large amount of health, and it is an incredible ability. You can use this to, like, maybe you're in a fight and you need a little bit more health. Using that ability can win you the fight. Or maybe, just want to help your teammates. Maybe you're making a big push onto a point. Using that shield ability at the right time, at the right moment, can be incredibly significant and can win you some games. It's just incredibly powerful. He also has the ability to essentially like attach himself to enemies, and with this ability, he's able to just do a little bit more damage and attack enemies a little bit easier. It's not the best ability in the world. However, it is, just something else in his toolkit that allows you to do just a little bit extra damage, which can be useful when, you're taking on the other tank or maybe a duelist one-on-one. And Venom's ultimate is pretty similar to Thor's, although it's just like you have significantly more mobility when you use it. Venom essentially burrows into the ground, and then you can swim over to the enemies like Jeff. And then when you activate your ultimate, like when you press the fire button, Venom pops out of the ground and takes a bite out of the enemies. And it's very similar to the Magneto and Thor ultimates, where it's not doing too much damage. However, it's great for disruption and just kind of throwing your enemies off. Venom has a very solid kit all around, and he is able to provide a ridiculous amount of shields to your teammates, which are incredibly powerful. He also has fantastic movement out of all the Vanguard characters. I would say that Venom easily has the best movement, just because he can swing around, and he also has the ability to run on walls similar to Spider-Man. However, due to the fact that the other two characters above Venom in the number 3 spot can block damage just better, and I think fill the role of being a tank better, he is going to be at the number 3 spot. However, I do think he is an incredibly solid character all around, and his team-ups, especially with like Peni Parker or Spider-Man, are also super powerful. So he is a great character all around. I do think there are some other characters that just fill the role of a Vanguard or a tank a lot better than Venom does. So let's get to them. At my number 2 spot, I have... look, I'm going to tell you guys right now, this number 2 spot and the number 1 spot, they're very much like tied. I think both of these characters could be interchangeable, and I think both are incredibly powerful. At my number 2 spot, I have Groot. I think that Groot is one of the best options for a tank character within Marvel Rivals. Let's cover Groot's main kit. His primary attack is essentially like an extended punch from Groot. And although it is a punch, it has quite significant range to it, like more range than Venom's attacks. So the ability to be ranged is always great. And as I mentioned previously, it gives Groot some extra survivability. So yeah, his main attack is fantastic. His side attack, or his right click, I think it would be on PC, is to shoot out like a little exploding ball, which does quite a lot of damage. And the real bread and butter of Groot is his ability to summon walls. Groot has the ability to summon 2 small walls and 1 big wall. These walls are incredibly powerful and can help to soak up a lot of damage. They are great for blocking routes of the map, like you see in my gameplay. I'm able to block off an entire connector, just making it significantly harder for the enemy team to attack the point. And yeah, Groot is just incredible for map control. He is easily, I think, the best character for map control. I think he is better than Peni Parker for like corralling the enemies. Groot and Peni Parker combined might be a good duo. However, I think Groot, just with the ability to make walls, how quickly you can make those walls, and how much it disrupts the enemy. Like you can, maybe there's the tank that's pushing up a little bit too much from his team. As Groot, you can build a wall behind the tank, and then your whole team is able to isolate that tank, kill him, make it a 5v6. So yeah, overall, I think Groot is just a fantastic character, and his walls are just incredibly powerful. Another incredibly powerful part about Groot is his ultimate. Groot's ultimate is very similar to, I think her name was Zarya from Overwatch. Her ultimate, which just sucks the enemy characters into one specific spot. It's like a black hole. Groot has the same ability, and it is incredibly powerful, as you are able to not only just stop the enemies in their tracks, give them no option to move, like they are literally just stuck there in one position when you use their ultimate as Groot, but you can also combine it with other ultimates, like Scarlet Witch's, which literally one-shots the enemies. So if you use Groot's ultimate and then Scarlet Witch's, you are able to easily kill an entire team. He's just an incredibly powerful character. His kit is just so incredibly strong. He's a ranged character. He can build walls. He can section off not only the map, but also like the enemy team, and facilitate kills like that. I think he's just a fantastic character overall. And I can't believe he's in the number 2 spot. That just says what I think about the number 1 spot. But yeah, Groot is a fantastic character. I think he is super, super good, and he could easily be in the number 1 spot. These two characters are very much interchangeable. But yeah, I have Groot at the number 2 spot. He is a fantastic tank, and I highly recommend you play him. And at my number 1 spot, I have Doctor Strange. Let's start off with Doctor Strange's just base kit. His primary attack is a volley of ranged projectiles, which are quite strong. Which again, ranged character, always great. Increased survivability. You guys know this by now. He has another fantastic ability where the way that he blocks damage is by casting a shield around himself, very similar to Magneto. And this shield is quite strong and is able to, again, similar to Magneto, be spammed pretty frequently. Another really cool part about Doctor Strange, and I think he is the only Vanguard character that has this type of ability, but he is able to levitate, and he is able to go up in the air and use aerial combat to his advantage. In my opinion, this is really significant because you're able to get up into the air and get some of the enemy's attention and then cast your shield and block a ton of damage. And this distracts the enemy team so much. I feel like Doctor Strange is amazing for blocking not only damage, but distracting the enemy team, which again facilitates your team to get some pretty easy kills. Another great ability that Doctor Strange has is, I believe it's after he's done some amount of damage, he can release a shockwave, and the shockwave is pretty strong. So he's just a solid character. He is a very deadly character. You can get a few hits off and then have that shockwave ability charged up, and you are seriously a force to be reckoned with. Another incredible part of Doctor Strange's kit is his ability to spawn a portal, and you can quite literally have it end up on any part of the map. And this portability is just really cool. You can use it offensively, like you can, I've seen TikToks where people they place the portal at the enemy spawn, and then they have the exit be like outside of the map. So when the enemies jump through the portal, they die. And that's a great way to use it. You can also use it to just get your team to the point faster, which gives you a huge positioning advantage and can really throw off the enemy team, just because they expect you to show up at a certain point. And if you can throw off their expectations, that again can help facilitate some easy kills. Another incredible part of Doctor Strange's kit is his ultimate, which is the Eye of Agamotto. Eye of Agamotto. I know I butchered that, and I'm sorry. Anyways, this ultimate essentially stuns the enemies for, I think it's like 5 seconds. It is a pretty significant stun, and it allows your team to get some pretty easy kills. When you're combining this with flying around the map and blocking damage and just kind of being a pest, he is an incredibly powerful character. I like how deadly he is. Like, he is a very aggressive Vanguard character. And he doesn't have the same type of damage blocking capabilities as a character like Groot. However, he's like a pest. He's like a mosquito. He can be very annoying, and a good Doctor Strange player can really just shift up the game. So that's why I have him at the #1 spot. So that's going to be my list. Let me know what you guys thought of it down in the comments below. And thank you for watching to the very end of this video. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.